Alright, so we are heading into the shop to get this thing done today. The goal is to block it out and get it into paint. So I'm just going to kind of dive right into the video probably as soon as I get there. Basically, I got to weld up the two pieces on the taillight panel. I have to paint the taillight panel with that satin trim paint black. And we just got to block all the filler out. We got to take the front suspension out of the car, get it on actual 6x6 blocks on top of the rollers. That way it rolls without wheels into the booth. Yeah, tidy up some stuff and then get this thing through paint. We got a lot of cleaning to do. Basically, from all the dust, we blew it out last night with a blower, but today is pressure wash everything, Scotch-Brite all the jams, rinse everything down with soap and water, get everything clean, and then once you do all that, it's best after you Scotch-Brite all that stuff to actually just leave it sitting overnight so that it dries, air dries, and you don't have to rush dry it. But basically, once we do ours today, since we're trying to paint the same day that we're blocking and washing, we have to turn around and dry it with a blower, like a air blower, a leaf blower. You just got to get it dry. All the water out of every nook and cranny, every crack, you got to get all that stuff out so the water don't come out in the middle of the paint job. Once you get it dry, then you can tape it up, mask it up, and you can finally start your painting process. So all the paint's back there in the back seat. Picked that up on Friday. It's perfect painting weather here today. It's not too cold. I haven't looked at the temperature, but it's probably in the 60s or 70, low 70s. It's been raining, but it's not actively really raining right now. It's sprinkling, so everything is soaking wet, which is perfect because that means that there's not going to be dust and as much dust floating around from the outside. Now the inside of the shop is full of dust, so it doesn't help us so much, but I do love painting on days that it has rain and everything is soaking wet. So we're just going to dive right into this one. Like I said, there's going to be probably a lot of time lapse because there's going to be a lot of hands in the pot, probably a lot of noise, and I'm not going to be able to do too much talking probably. So let's get after it. All right, so that's where we're at. As y'all can see, there was a bunch of time lapse because everything was just, I mean, all over the place. There wasn't really nothing good to keep pausing and showing you. Mr. John come over and got all of the wiring harness gutted out. They are going to be the ones to wire the car back up when it's done, and we can go over who that is and everything in a later video. But he stripped like literally everything out, got all the wiring taken out of the car, everything, because they're going to start off fresh. Randy's going to repaint all the cage, get rid of all the chips. He's going to clean everything out after it's painted. So all we got left is to block this side out. Already got the roof sanded and the other side's done. Right now we're just doing a final fitment on the front end. There was a few small concerns. So we're going to refit the hood one more time down the edges. If you watch the hood fitting video, we left the edges alone until this stage. And right now this door just does not line up at the body lines whenever you close it. So when you close it, you can see the body lines are just, you can see they're just wrong. They're not right, okay? So you got body line here and a body line way down here. So we got to get all this down. So I'm pretty sure that means the striker's got to come down, and the door hinge, the bottom one probably has to come loose and pivot that way, or your top one has to come loose and pivot this way. One or the other, but we just got to get this down and lined up before paint. That way I know it's good, and that way he can send the roller off for wiring, and we don't have to worry about no fitment. So all of this quarter's blocked out and everything's taken apart. You seen it took all the suspension out of the car. You've seen that on the time lapse, because we will be painting the whole front end the same color as the car. Firewall's gonna get scuffed down, everything. And we'll take the front end back off, obviously, to do that. So that's where we're at. I know it's been a boring video, a bunch of time lapse, but there's just not a lot to keep pausing and talking about. All right, so that's where we're at on this. So we had a couple changes real fast, which is for the absolute 100% better. But we're gonna push the paint back one more day. Instead of getting it in on Sunday, we're gonna either get it in on Monday or Tuesday. I'm not sure yet. So a couple issues is we clearanced the doors, if you remember, but they're still, the door skin is still about 1/8 of an inch out, and the front fenders are setting in, or probably about the thickness of your driver's license or your credit card, if not two of them, so you can get a visual of how far out the door is at the top compared to the fenders. And it's like that on both sides. So the mistake somebody made, which is, I mean, not end of the world, I didn't do it, but so this gets welded, okay? Your Zeus bracket gets welded here, and it gets welded here. All it does is it just butt welds, okay? There's nothing there but butt welds. So when you put your front end on, you take your front end, okay? My hand's in front end, and you put it on, you shift your front end like this to where it lines up with the doors. Wherever that fits at, then you drill for your Zeuses and install your Zeuses, is what Randy is telling me from when he knows that stuff was put together. I've never installed one of these front ends, so if I'm wrong, you can correct me. But what I'm hearing is that these front ends do not come with the Zeus holes drilled in them. You have to drill the Zeus holes. And that kind of makes sense because of the inconsistency on a couple of them. But anyway, somebody should have just pulled this out a little bit more, then drill the Zeus holes. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this off tomorrow. And when Mike's here, Mike is with CRC Automotive and Marine. He does TIGging, welding, MIGging. I mean, he's a fabricator, does all that. I can weld, but my welds are not pretty, okay? So anything that needs to be pretty, I let Mike TIG. So we can cut these off tomorrow with me. I'll cut them off, and I'll clean all these brackets up for Mike, and I'll clean this edge up, and then that way he can actually stack some dimes on the top of this to make this look good, so that when Randy's at the track and the front end is off the car, there's actually some TIG dimes on it versus my splatter all over the place. So same thing with this one. What that's also going to do is we're going to go ahead and fix our height, how high we want the thing. And I just got to figure out with Mike how in the world we're going to do this. I'm guessing he's going to put a tack here, like from the inside like this, or wherever he can see it at. And I'm guessing he'll put a tack on the windshield, just enough to hold it. And that one's going to be a little hard. He'll probably try to get a tack down in there somehow. And then you'll have to unzeus the front end, because you got to put the front end on so you can pull this out. What we'll do is we're going to cut some plates, and we will shim this out basically with some little strips of metal. Make some shims to push this bracket out. So there will actually be a shim welded to this, and this will be welded to the shim. But he'll have to figure out, or we'll have to figure out how to tack that. And that's going to fix all of our flush mounts, because now that I've got all this lined up, the door fits absolutely beautiful. The body line could, this is not blocked right here, it's still guide coat. So that curve up is just guide coat. That needs to be sharpened off, but that fits right there. And then all of them fit for a fiberglass part. You're not really gonna get better than that. You have your matching gap down your door this way. And then when this is on, it's not bad too. So what the issue was with this door is that whenever somebody installed it, it was too far this way. So they have went in here on this striker, I'll show you, and put a ton of washers in here, okay? And it's not necessarily that that's wrong, but, so you see the door closes pretty good now. All it needed to be done, man, is unbolt your freaking hinges and scoot your whole door that way. Your gap was already fat on that side. So you don't take your freaking striker and move it out. You undo your hinges and move it back. That's all you gotta do. Now, whoever installed that, I don't know. I don't know who installed it. Randy didn't tell me who installed it as far as all that. So if whoever installed it is watching the video, I don't even know who you are. I don't know why you did it. You know, the person could have been trying to move the door closer this way to get the gap right. Sometimes you have a situation where the fender's here, quarter panel's here, and you have to center the door inside of that gap, where both gaps are on both sides look the same. So that very well could have been the case. I don't know. I'm not here to say that. All I'm saying is, in my situation, the door was too high up. When I brought it down, then that changed the gap on the striker like this. And instead of stacking more freaking washers, I just completely undid the door hinges and just moved the whole thing back. Now what that allows us to do is tomorrow when we cut this, see where I'm getting at? Now if we need to scoot this back just a touch, so again, you're talking a 1/16 or an 1/8. If you don't know measurements, you're talking the thickness of your driver's license that we're making moves. Thickness of 2 driver's licenses stacked on top of each other. That's how much we're talking about moving this stuff. That's how close we're trying to get it. They're still fiberglass parts, so they're still not going to fit the greatest, but that's what we're trying to get our tolerances. When he wrecked the front end, another issue is putting this thing on and off. It's not been smooth. When he wrecked it before, I believe the tabs got bent is what it's looking like. Nobody ever fixed them, or maybe they got bent again after the wreck. I don't know. All I can tell you is that when I'm fitting them now, the tabs are actually too far in, okay, too far like this, whichever way. And them tabs, okay, let's see, just in case you're watching the channel and you don't know how this front pieces work, it's a hook, okay? You have what's called a tree inside the front of your one-piece bar, and them tabs, okay, so if they're like that, them tabs slide in like that. All right, so that bar, if my finger was the bar, it goes in like that. That's what holds it in. So your front end goes in there, and then you put your Zeus's in, and that's what locks it from coming off. This tree was bent. They did a repair on there, and they did all this repair from the accident. It looks good. There ain't nothing wrong with that. But our clearances was just these tabs right here. If my fingers are the tabs, were kind of like this. So they were kind of like dragging, okay? Versus you kind of, I'd rather have it like this. I'd rather have a gap. And that's what I told Randy. So we opened these up a little bit, removed them so that there's not a gap. I don't want the piece to go in like this and drag on that piece and be tearing my paint off. I want a little bit of a gap. We're also going to come back, and after we clearance all this, we're going to come back and do the rubber door edge protector around this and around this, okay? And that's going to keep it so you're not scratching your cowling up, because your cowling up there can get tore all up from it coming on and off, just like the hood. We're going to do the same thing with the hood. We're going to go door edge protector around it and up like this and around it and back down. That way anything it accidentally touches or vibrates again, it's not scratching the paint up. So that's where we're at. Cut some tabs tomorrow, clearance them, check my clearances on my door, finish grinding out my clearances on here. The front end, you know, these little edges like this right here, they have to get knocked off. You know, just check the final fitment. Time just got away from us. Man, it's 5 o'clock. We have worked all day long on a Sunday. We could have rushed it through paint, but then the problem is after you rush it through paint, then you're still dealing with clearances, you know, on the front end after paint. And we don't want to do that. I mean, it's smart just to stop, take your time, and do it right, and have everything fit and perfect. So it's going to set us back 1 day or 2 days. So Monday or Tuesday we're talking about. It's perfectly fine with me. I'm happy with it. It's going to be a better job in the end to just go ahead and pause for tonight. And I still will have this thing done for my Christmas break. So hopefully I can get on my car just a little bit over Christmas break. Randy can have his roller back. And, you know, then after Christmas break, I can start going through and panel painting, fixing the doors, fixing the front ends and all that. But I got to have all my clearancing done now. So hope y'all enjoyed. Hope the time lapse and everything wasn't too much, but I'm gonna just show y'all it all because, man, that's a whole day and it don't look like a lot was done hardly, to me at least. So like, comment, share, subscribe. Y'all keep up the support. I'm honestly absolutely amazed at the response I'm getting in these videos. I didn't expect this at all. Y'all don't know how much I appreciate it. I know I keep saying it, but when I decided I was gonna do this YouTube stuff. I've been doing this stuff for years. I don't do a ton of race cars at all. This is my first actual big or actual fast race car that I've ever worked on with paint and body work. Normally it's the salvage stuff, but even the response to the salvage stuff has been amazing, and I just didn't know it was going to take off like this. All I'm saying is I greatly appreciate the support. I greatly appreciate all the subscriptions. I mean, the people subscribing are just going up every day. The count's going up. The views are going up. We're definitely growing and moving in the right direction, and I greatly appreciate it. So with that said, I think we're going to call that a day. I appreciate everything, and we will definitely get this thing through paint this week.